This is a Nice Guys Patreon exclusive.
Welcome to another Ice Guys team season preview video as 32 teams in 32 days rolls along. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith with you. And in this season preview video, we are talking about the Philadelphia Flyers, who have obviously made a coaching change. Rick Tocchet, new head coach, taking over behind the bench. I love the hire just because we saw the job he did in Vancouver, immediate turnaround, getting them into the playoffs, obviously 2 years ago in his first full season at the helm of the Vancouver Canucks. And I think the kind of coach this Flyers organization kind of needs at this point. Obviously, there were some good moments in the John Tortorella era, and there were some not so good moments in the John Tortorella era. But certainly with Rick Tocchet, you know what he's going to provide. It's structured play, a team type of, environment where, team play is going to be emphasized over individual performances and statistics. And I think he's a good fit for some of these younger players on the Flyers this year who have been, let's be honest, they've been getting their cookies, they've been getting their numbers, and they haven't exactly been paying attention to how they play without the puck. And that is certainly something that Rick Tocchet can come in here and immediately try to fix, and help this team with, especially their younger players. Matvei Michkov is, Exhibit A of that. Matvei Michkov has the potential to be a tremendous offensive talent in this league, a tremendous offensive player, 63 points, 26 goals in 80 games last year. But what held him back? Great offensively, not so good defensively. And John Tortorella, banged his head against the wall much of last season trying to get that kind of better defensive play out of Matvei Michkov. And we saw them clash at times, on the bench during Flyers games last year. And now it'll be up to Rick Tocchet to try to get more of a 200-foot game out of Matvei Michkov if this team is going to, obviously improve as a team this upcoming season. That is going to be an important part of it. Sean Couturier, Travis Konecny, obviously with Couturier last year, what was good is that he stayed relatively healthy. We did see and we actually saw after a disappointing offensive season 2 years ago. Now, I don't want to say he lit it up, but it was just, it fell off at an unbelievable clip offensively for Couturier 2 years ago. But last year, he improved his goals. He improved his points from 2 seasons ago. We know he's still very good as a defensive center, face-off guy, and he's going to bring that still for the Flyers. But if you can get offense out of him, it's a bonus. Travis Konecny, still to me, one of the most underrated forwards in the league. He is a really good player, and not enough people talk about him. Usually everyone, if you're on the top line for a team, you get talked about. For some reason, he doesn't. And, we saw his points go up to 76, almost a point per game player last year. Travis Konecny plays with a little sandpaper as well to his game, not just the skill quotient, which is good to see. And he'll be, of course, back on that top line. Now, Trevor Zegras, someone that Daniel Briere, Keith Jones targeted. Bring him in, give him a fresh change of scenery, clean slate for Trevor Zegras. We know he's a gifted offensive player. His ability and his skill set is certainly there. But much like we talked about with Michkov, getting him to be a more committed defensive player is going to be the task, for Rick Tocchet, the new head coach, is getting that kind of two-way play out of Trevor Zegras. And it got to the point with Anaheim where, Greg Cronin and Trevor Zegras had issues because Trevor Zegras wasn't playing the level of defensive play away from the puck that Greg Cronin wanted. And that's why things kind of went on the outs for him with the Anaheim Ducks. We know, obviously, the offensive ability is there, but getting that out of Trevor Zegras and better play away from the puck's the key. Hopefully better health as well, because he only played 31 games 2 years ago, 57 games last year. Hopefully he's able to avoid injuries this year. That's going to be important for this Flyers team because they're going to need his offense for sure. Not only do you hope he's better defensively, you're going to need his offense because when you look at the rest of the forward group, and of course Tippett and Tyson Forster, who I thought had a pretty solid year, they'll be on that second line most likely. But there is concerns about where the scoring is going to come from on the third and the fourth line. Bobby Brink, inconsistent, streaky but inconsistent. Noah Cates, streaky but inconsistent. Anthony Richard, we'll see what they get out of him. Christian Dvorak, to give them a little center depth. I did like that they brought him in. Hopefully he can give them some offensive punch. Garnet Hathaway on the fourth line for physicality. But again, where that consistent offense is going to come from from the third and the fourth line, there is some doubt there. The blue line, I think for Travis Sanheim, it was kind of a coming out party season for him last year. I thought he was really solid overall for the Philadelphia Flyers. Played all 82 games, solid defensively, showed the ability to put up some points on the back end for this team as well. You've got obviously Jamie Drysdale, who of course came also from Anaheim a couple of years ago. Nick Seeler, Cam York. I like those players. I don't know if I like Seeler as a top pair defenseman. I don't know if, Cam York still someone that I thought improved, as the season went along, last year. But again, as far as his defensive play, you'd like to continue to see this improvement. Last year was kind of an up and down year for him. Didn't give you a ton offensively. But again, they're asking for Cam York and Nick Seeler to be number one, number two pair defensemen. And it's almost like square peg into round hole syndrome a little bit. I like them. Certainly, if they were in a third pair, I'd like Nick Seeler and Cam York. Are they equipped enough, to handle the load defensively as a top pair or second pair defenseman that they may have to? You got Igor Zamula, Emil Andre rounding out this blue line. And, of course, you got Rasmus Ristolainen, who will probably be on this blue line when he's healthy, but he's starting the training camp injured right now for the Philadelphia Flyers. I expect, though, the one thing about the blue line, even though there's still a lot of question marks there, that Rick Tocchet's going to get this team to buy into playing a style of hockey that will make the team defense better just because they're going to be more connected as a team defensively. They're going to be structured. And that is something that at times we haven't always seen from the Philadelphia Flyers in the past. And if they play with that team concept and better structure and responsibility defensively, it makes life easier on your goaltenders. And when you look at Philadelphia's goaltending, Samuel Ersson had his ups, he had his downs last year. There's no doubt. He had some injuries. It was a mixed bag last year for Samuel Ersson. Remember when he first really got the opportunity to start for the Flyers full-time, numbers were pretty good, but they fell off last year. 3.14 goals against average, .883 save percentage. He was banged up a little bit as well, and just didn't play nearly as well. And I think part of that was the struggles of the Flyers. They also struggled to score goals, didn't always get the goal support that a goalie needs. But I think now with Rick Tocchet, to try to get this team to play, a 200-foot game throughout their lineup, be strong and structured and sound defensively, that it'll help Samuel Ersson this year to have a better season. And if he does falter, you've got Dan Vladar. Darth Vladar now is the backup goaltender, who I thought, started slow with Calgary last year, but he had a really good second half. And there were times he was playing nearly as well as Dustin Wolf. And there were some highlight reel saves, multiple saves like that from Dan Vladar in the back half of the season. So you've got a capable goaltending tandem that should be helped by the fact that I think this team is going to buy into Rick Tocchet's style of playing a better team defense entering this season. And just like any team that's bringing in a coach, especially an established coach, one that has a track record of success elsewhere, like Rick Tocchet has had it in Vancouver, getting them into the playoffs 2 years ago, players notice that. And what that means is when you're in training camp and you start the regular season, there's a little extra bounce in your step, a little extra pep in your step, a high level of energy for the Philadelphia Flyers to start the season in the new Rick Tocchet era. So with that in mind, while there's still some holes in the roster, Rick Tocchet has shown he can, even with a roster that's got some issues, be able to get the most out of them, especially that first season. So I'm going to take the Flyers over 81.5 this season. I think they can improve by 6 points on the 76 points they had last year. Playoffs, we'll see, but they could be 82 points and miss the playoffs. I do think they've got a chance to go over that 81.5 point mark. And like I said, Rick Tocchet has shown an ability for improvement with the team that he takes over immediately, and we'll see if he can make that happen here with the Philadelphia Flyers. Alex, your thoughts on the Philadelphia Flyers?
Yeah, so it's interesting. We were talking about this before the taping, kind of, what we're looking for in this team. And, we were saying it's not going to be the, worst team in the league, in the conference, in the division, I should say. I didn't like them to finish last. I like Pittsburgh to finish last. And so you're talking about how you like them over the point total. And I'm just looking at this exact, spot of where they could finish. You can get them to finish 5th place in the Metro, plus 480, 6th place in the division, plus 380. I think that might be an even better look at what you're saying as far as fitting with the points, because if they can fall within 80 points, 82 points, that should still be within the range of them getting, within that point total, but not necessarily being a playoff team, because I don't see them being a 90, 95 point team. But falling within that 80 to 85 point range, I think you may be able to increase your value a little bit by taking them a shot with them to finish exactly in fifth or exactly in sixth place. And then even looking at how the things line up for them early. Looking at the schedule, they have a tough couple of games to start at Florida, at Carolina, but then they start at home against Florida. It's a 4-game stretch with Florida, Winnipeg, Minnesota, and Seattle. A standalone road game at Ottawa, and then back home for New York Islanders, Pittsburgh, and Nashville to round out October. So if you check out DraftKings with that October points look, you can go over 10.5 points minus $1.10. I like that look. I think, like you said, there's going to be a lot of energy early with this team, a lot of energy at home where they have 11 of their first 15 games to start the season, and that kind of bump that we could see from Tocchet and like I said, getting these younger guys to play hard. We should definitely see that energy early. Now, there'll be times during the season where they may kind of, fall out of favor with him. Not necessarily he's losing the room, but, they just get worn down a bit, and then they go through their struggles. That's why I don't see them necessarily making a run and being a playoff team this year, but certainly could make strides to improve from that 76-point total. So I like over 10.5 points in October, minus $1.10, and then I'm going to take some little sprinkles and them to finish either 5th place or 6th place in the Metro. That's plus 480 to finish in 5th, plus 380 to finish 6th.
All right, I like it. I like that approach. I really do. It makes a lot of sense when you talk about how that October start, they might be able to get out of the gate fast, this Philadelphia Flyers team. Combination of schedule in their favor and just the energy that, playing for a brand new head coach will bring to the Philadelphia Flyers right out of the gate. Another prop I'll mention, about their team offensively last year, the power play struggled. It was really bad under Torts, especially. I mean, just wretched on the power play. Goals per game, they were, kind of middle of the pack, 2.83 goals scored per game. They were actually slightly better offensively last year than they were defensively, which is unfortunately an indictment of, the way it was kind of trending with John Tortorella, because only Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Chicago, and San Jose gave up more goals per game last year than the Philadelphia Flyers. So again, it speaks to the fact that Tocchet's coming in here to make sure this team plays with better structure. You got to think the offensive numbers could improve a bit. Matvei Michkov is going to be a big part of that. And I find that his point prop is worth a look over 64.5. Keep in mind, he got 63 points last year in a season where, he's just getting used to the NHL full time, in a season where he didn't always, see eye to eye with John Tortorella. And there were times Tortorella would bench him a little bit too. And yet in the season with those kind of dynamics in play, he still got 63 points for the Philadelphia Flyers last year. We're only asking him to improve by 2 points, to go over 64.5 points, Matvei Michkov, this year. So that is a season-long player prop that I do think is worth a bet. Michkov can certainly be dynamic offensively once again. And I think this time, I think he's just going to jive a little bit more personality-wise with Rick Tocchet. Rick Tocchet does have a way with the younger players of kind of knowing when to push buttons and when to stand back. And I think that's definitely going to be a helpful way of dealing with this young Russian kid, Matvei Michkov. So I think he'll have a big offensive season. And like I said, 64.5 points. And I wouldn't be shocked to see him improve, maybe not right away, but improve as the season goes along defensively as well. With Rick Tocchet at the helm. There you have it with the Philadelphia Flyers. Before we wrap it up, we will hear from our brand new smoke sponsor of the Ice Guys show, our good friends at Royal Cannabis.
Royal Cannabis, where the kings and queens shop.
Check it out, 20% off using the promo code ICEGUYS at royalcannabisshop.com. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. This has been your Philadelphia Flyers season preview video as 32 teams in 32 days rolls along, courtesy of the Ice Guys.